of belt and with what specifications do you recommend for bodybuilding training? Just use whatever belt you already have, to be honest. You don't need some super specific type of belt to do optimal hypertrophy training. If you have a powerlifting style belt, you can just use that. If it interferes with breathing or positioning on any given lift, just don't wear it. It's really that simple. If I was forced to pick a belt, I would pick a nylon Velcro belt, like a cheap, like literal cheap Velcro belt. Because that's going to be soft and it's not going to interfere with positioning on hinges. Now, if you want something fancier, get the Pioneer Fit Strongman Hybrid belt. I have that one and it's great. I thought you were doing DC training with rest pause sets. You thought wrong, man. I did DC training from June to August last year. So I haven't been doing DC training for like 10 months now. As far as what I would change to DC training, I wouldn't do DC training. It's just not appropriate for me personally. It's a program for people who need to add size everywhere and put on tons of pounds on their compound lifts as quickly as possible. Personally, my physique weaknesses are like side delts and arms, which DC training is a pretty poor choice to address. So there's a lot that I would change. It just isn't for me. Zero RIR versus meathead dying under the bar on big compound lifts. On barbell squats and deadlifts specifically, less so presses and rows, I would personally avoid training to actual failure because technical failure usually happens way before that, and a bunch of people have compensation patterns that go on when they go to actual failure that can cause pain and injuries, and I just don't think the SFR is worth it on barbell compounds specifically. Push-pull leg split with no B rotation to maximize return to baseline strength levels. You definitely have the right idea. However, if you want to maximize the speed of your return to baseline levels after a layoff due to injury, vacation, sickness, whatever, you actually want to use the highest frequency possible. So full body and an upper-lower split with no B rotations would work even better and even faster. I had 4 plates on the prime mid peg. Now I've worked up to 4 plates on the lengthen peg on a pressing machine. Is this a PR? Is this progress? So hate to break it to you, man. In my experience, no, this is not progress. The lengthen peg is easier on Strive/Prime pressing pieces. In my experience, the middle peg is actually the hardest. So, I mean, it's good that you got that up, but I wouldn't really qualify this as being better than you were before. How to determine when a larger range of motion is actually a detriment versus using more load. So this primarily occurs when using a larger range of motion introduces a new muscle as a limiting factor. So using the Lou raise example, if you're failing the movement above 90 degrees, the side delts have their best leverage at 90 degrees. So they're probably not the things that are failing anymore. Another example of this would be lat work. If you are doing a full range of motion pull up, for example, and you're failing when your elbows are getting parallel to your torso and you're missing the last few inches of the range of motion, bringing your chest all the way to the bar, well, the last few inches there are usually responsible for the rear delts or the scapular retractors, and your lats really are just pulling the elbow to in line with the torso. So you may get a better lat, specifically lat SFR, if that's what your goal is, by cutting the range of motion in that case. Are resensitization and taxing different muscles the only reason to change movements from block to block? No, the main reason to change a movement from block to block is because the SFR has become poor. This can either be because the movement is now hurting your joints, or because you now have to do so many sets on that movement to progress it that it's taking away from other movements that are a bigger priority to your physique, or you're doing so many sets that you can no longer recover in time for the next session. Novel movements will take less sets to produce hypertrophy and to produce strength progress, so they can be useful. Alrighty, folks, that is the end of today's Q&A. I told you it was going to be a short one as I did not do very much in the gym today. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow to get my sutures removed, so I'm going to take tomorrow off, and then I will begin doing full body again on Wednesday. That's why I did much lower volumes today, so that my back would be recovered in time. I haven't done legs in a while, so everything should coalesce to get me back on that split, as I just know it's what's best for my arms and my side delts, and that's what needs to come up the most anyway. So with that said, if you guys enjoy the Q&As, remember to like the Q&A when it comes out on YouTube. Helps a lot. You can become a supporter on Patreon for $1 a month. If you'd like to work with me directly or get any of my ebooks, there is going to be a link in my bio for that, and a link in the description box on YouTube. So, as always, everyone, thanks for participating in the Q&A, and I will see you on Wednesday for episode 91.